If you have any name suggestions for my skeleton, please leave them down below. So you see by the title today, we're going to be discussing the 10 most disturbing movies that have stuck with me ever since watching them. So it's not just going to be movies that are disturbing for obvious reasons. They're ones that I just can't stop thinking about as well. Sorry about my neighbors walking around. I can't really do anything about that. We're getting a lot of old content here today. We got Pepe. You guys have been complaining you haven't seen him lately. There he is. And we have my neighbors walking around. It's like 2019 all over again. So I do want to point out a little disclaimer before I get into these movies that some of your favorites might be on this list. I think we all seek out different things from the horror genre, so I don't like the comment, well, isn't that the point of horror, is to be disturbed? Yes, to an extent. Personally, as someone who's sensitive, both with anxiety and someone who can get overstimulated very easily, I don't seek out these kind of movies. They're not my favorites at all. And I do like to be scared and feel slightly uncomfortable, but I don't want to be so disturbed by a movie that I never want to watch it again, which is what these movies are pretty much. I've only seen all of these movies the one time. So everyone's preferences will be different. Everyone's disturbed by different things. This is just my personal 10 movies that have disturbed me the most and stuck with me the longest. Also, I'm going to try to explain why these movies are so disturbing to me without spoiling them. For one, I don't want to be demonetized, because if I talk about why these movies bother me, I'll 100% get demonetized, but also I don't want to spoil the movies in case you do want to watch them for whatever reason after I tell you they're really messed up. I don't know. Sometimes people like these kind of movies, so you do you. So if you've watched my channel for a while, you know that this one will be on this list, so let's just start with it. Mother. This is a 2017 movie that follows a woman who is renovating the Victorian home in the countryside she lives in with her husband when they have strange guests arrive and disrupt their peaceful life. And based on that, doesn't sound like a very messed up movie at all. This is written and directed by Darren Aronofsky. I'm gonna butcher his name. Aronofsky. Is that good? Who is kind of known for making surreal movies such as Black Swan and Requiem for a Dream, and I actually really liked his take on the movie Noah, which I'm an atheist who likes biblical stories. I don't know. And I honestly haven't seen much of his work, but I can say that this is definitely one of his most disturbing movies that he's ever done, and surreal movies that he's ever done. I can just say that very confidently, not seeing a lot of his other work. So this movie starts out pretty normal, and before you know it, you're just not sure what you're watching anymore. It just is such a gradual build to where you feel so uncomfortable, and you feel what the character of Jennifer Lawrence is feeling, just so out of control and so overwhelmed, especially if you feel a lot of empathy on a regular basis, or you're sensitive, or if you have anxiety, or if you're an introvert. This is your nightmare of a movie. And I saw this in theaters. Regret doing that. I was so immersed in this movie that it was definitely a whole experience. I actually don't want to say I regret doing it, because I feel like that's how the movie was supposed to be experienced, was in a theater, surround sound, cannot escape. You could walk out if you want to, but you're gonna waste your money, or I guess you could ask for refunds, but I don't do that. Who asks for refunds on movies when you go buy a ticket? Just leave. Anyway, but I did want to leave so many times because I felt so physically uncomfortable, and just like what she is experiencing in the movie is honestly a version of hell. It is the most overwhelming movie I have ever seen, and so, oh my, the emotional roller coaster of this movie. And I know it sounds enticing if you haven't seen it yet. You've probably at least heard of it by now and how stressful this movie is. I haven't seen it since. Oddly, I have wanted to challenge myself to rewatch it. Not sure why. Just a part of me wants to experience it at home where I can pause it. It's not surround sound, it's just in my own living room, so I feel safe. Part of me wants to try it like that. I can't say that you watching it now at home would be the same experience that I experienced in the theater seeing this, so it's probably not going to affect you as much as it did for those who saw it in the theater, but I can say it's still going to be very highly stressful because the situation, if you are an introvert in any way, it's just a nightmare. So the next most disturbing movie on this list is Martyrs. This came out in 2008, and it is not the American remake. We're talking about the French version. The American remake is weak sauce compared to the French version. So this follows two young women who suffered child abuse who seek out revenge only to be trapped in a living hell of depravity. So this is a very famous movie and known for being highly intense, although it is often highly recommended because it is such a good movie. I think it is an amazing film. Do I want to see it again? Never in my life. Probably. I don't know. I can't say for sure that I'll never watch it again, but it is an amazing movie. It's an incredible telling of a story, but it's a lot. So the director actually said that he was inspired by Hostel when making this movie, which I found so interesting when I read that, because I don't typically enjoy the Hostel movies, although I do want to revisit them, because the last time I watched them, I think I was in high school, early college, and I was a different horror fan at that time. So instead of making a movie about suffering, much like Hostel, he wanted to make a movie about pain, and he was also in a deep depression state when he made this movie, which is why it has such a nihilistic and depressing story and feel. I don't want to go too much into, I mean, like any movie in this video, I don't want to go too into detail about it, because I feel like that's the most disturbing way to watch them, is to go in blind and not know things before you go into it. This is a famous movie, so you've probably already heard of it by now. I don't want to be the one to like spoil it for you. If you do want to be disturbed, if you're looking for movies to disturb you, I would go in blind to this one and not look up anything about it. So like I said, I have only seen this the one time, but unlike Mother, where I'm like terrified of the movie and am scared to go into it again, this is one that I would actually recommend as a really amazing movie, and everyone should see it at least once if you think you can handle it, because it is amazing. So the next movie on this list is kind of a surprise for me when I was making this, and it is the most recent movie on this list, and a movie that actually came out in 2020, and that is The Lodge. This follows a soon-to-be stepmom and her fiance's 2 children at a snowy remote cabin when some strange and frightening things begin taking place. Now this movie in particular is really hard to talk about why it's disturbing without spoiling it, but I did do a whole spoiler review on my channel already. I've already talked about this movie if you want to go check out my thoughts on it. So I wouldn't say this is the most disturbing on this list by any means, because I got through it okay. Like, it was okay. It was the after effects, I think, and it just is such a heavy film that it just sat with me to this day, like for so long. I can't get the images out of my head, and it's not going to be as disturbing for the same reasons as the other movies on this list, but this is definitely the most psychological movie, I think, disturbing wise, besides Mother. I guess Mother is a lot of psychological disturbing elements as well, but something about The Lodge is so emotionally disturbing. I personally felt emotionally broken when I saw this in theaters, and I actually went by myself, which was a mistake. I wish I didn't, because it is so heavy of a movie, and thank God I have this platform to talk through it with you guys. I kind of talked about it with my boyfriend a little bit, but he hadn't seen it, so he doesn't know what I'm talking about. I will say this won't disturb a majority of people, probably because although it has horror elements, I wouldn't say this is a horror movie. And this is kind of where my sensitivity comes in, when there are real life scenarios in movies, and if you see the movie you know what I'm talking about, that are just really hard to handle for a lot of people. So it's going to be certain elements that are disturbing, and it's not going to be disturbing for everyone. So I can't say this is, you know, up there, but it really did affect me and it has stuck with me. The next movie is called The SNOWTOWN Murders. This is a 2011 Australian crime drama that follows a teen who is taken under the wing of his mother's boyfriend and is made an accomplice in a series of murders. So this is actually based on the real life SNOWTOWN murders that took place in the 90s in South Australia. And this is a horror movie in the sense of the disturbing elements within it, but it is definitely more of a drama film than anything. And I'm gonna be very repetitive in this video when trying to describe these movies without spoiling them, but there are many violent and graphic scenes in this movie that are just shocking, and a lot. It's a lot, especially because it's based in reality, which makes it that much harder to watch. And I can recommend some of these movies on this list as good movies because they're well done, well acted. This is one of those that is very well acted, but if you're going to watch it, just be mentally prepared for a lot of scenes that are very heavy. It does a great job of exhibiting the things that happened in Adelaide, but it is a very tough movie to get through if you want to watch it. Again, it's not so disturbing like Martyrs or something, or others on this list we're gonna get to, but it is more of one of those drama films that has disturbing elements that are, it's a lot. Let's move on to a more lighter movie that I can say that most of you can get through no problem. It's just me. This is a just me movie that I find disturbing for really weird reasons, and that is Dead End. So this movie is from 2003 and follows a family on their way to their family's house on Christmas Eve when they decide to take a shortcut, which ends up being the worst decision of their lives. It stars Robert Wise and Lynn Shay, who are amazing in it, maybe a little too amazing in it. I've talked about this movie in the past. I think I talked about it on Emma's channel from Spooky Astronauts when we had to describe a scene. I talked about it on her channel, and that's the only time I'm ever gonna say what is disturbing about it. I'm gonna see if I can find that video of hers and link it if you want to hear me describe this scene that really bothered me. It's with Lynn Shay. It's very gross, and it was so much for me. I laugh because it's so funny, because people will laugh at me when you know what the scene is, especially because the entire movie is not disturbing, like at all. The whole movie, it is early 2000s cheese, which you would think would be right up my alley, and I think beyond that scene, it was a fine movie. It was, you know, good, I guess. I just personally can't get past that one scene, so I will never watch this movie again unless I just skip forward through that scene, I guess, but it's just not worth it for me. It's not a great super good movie or by any means. It's definitely the least disturbing movie on this list, but I think it had to go on my personal disturbing movies list. So the next movie we're gonna talk about is an interesting one, I think, and might shock people, and that is Hereditary. And the reason why I kind of made this video is kind of because of Hereditary. I realized that I had only seen it the one time I saw it in theaters, and being a fan of Ari Aster, A24, loved Midsummer, watched that multiple times, I realized I'd only seen Hereditary once. So I was like, I need to rewatch it, especially a movie like Hereditary that is so complex that it needs a second viewing to really understand all of the themes throughout it, and I couldn't do it. I could not bring myself to watch it. I was like scared to watch it, and that's when I realized that this is one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen, because certain scenes came into my head when I was thinking about rewatching it, and I realized that I don't want to experience those specific scenes again. So anyway, as we all know, this follows a family after losing their grandmother. They slowly begin to realize cryptic secrets about their ancestry as they try to fight their fate they inherited. So this was actually Ari Aster's first feature-length directorial debut, and I think it really was the movie that put A24 on the map. They've obviously always existed for a long time, have made amazing movies prior and after, but I think this is the one. I mean, it's A24's highest grossing film of all time. So I think it's really what made people realize and take note of A24 movies in general. I don't think I really need to get into the specific scenes and things that are so disturbing about this movie, because it really is the movie as a whole that is really disturbing to me. And when I posted my realization on Instagram, a lot of you guys agreed with me, which made me feel seen. I felt less alone and less weird, because as a horror fan, I like Hereditary. And so I was like, am I a fake fan because I can't watch it again? Like, but I think that just goes to show how effective the movie really was. I thought it was me just being my sensitive self and not being able to handle certain things. Like, did I really enjoy the movie, or was it the horror community hype that made me think I enjoyed the movie? But I really didn't realize how much this movie stuck with me and how I wouldn't be able to rewatch it. And I still am planning on rewatching it. I think I just need to hype myself up for it and like get prepared for the visuals and the, you know, everything in the movie. Next, we're gonna talk about Human Centipede 2 from 2011. Honestly, these movies are kind of seen as a joke almost by now, as being disturbing, because the first one honestly isn't even that disturbing in concept when you think about it now, compared to other movies that we've all seen by now. But the second one, no thank you. It's too much. So this is an exploitation horror that follows a man who collects people to recreate the experiment from the first movie, since he's a big fan, but makes it more intense with more people connected. I think I even saw an edited version of this movie because it was so graphic, and personally, I hate movies that are graphic for the sake of being graphic. I can't stand those like kind of movies at all, where they're just trying to be as shocking as possible and have it not even be a good movie. Human Centipede 2, not a great movie technically. I mean, I understand exploitation films like these. I mean, there's different types of exploitation films, obviously, different categories, but I'm talking about the like overly violent, sexual violence, things like that, shocking for shock value movies. They're not my favorites at all in the genre, and I have said in the past home invasion movies are my least favorite. I think exploitation films are my least favorite, and I know they're influential in the genre. I know they have a place in the genre. I don't seek them out because I don't like them. I can't handle them. Typically, the plot isn't good enough to make it enjoyable. I'm just torturing myself when I watch these kind of movies. I just won't ever understand or be a fan of the Human Centipede movies. I know there are genuine fans out there, as bad as they are of movies, but yeah, the second one was definitely the worst one. The third one was just so over the top, it wasn't even disturbing. It was just, what are you doing? The first one is not disturbing to me, and then the second one is where it's at because it has all the aspects of exploitation films that I hate. So the next one is ABCs of Death, and specifically 2 letters. In case you haven't seen ABCs of Death collections, they are short horror that each alphabetical letter gets a different director and a different story. So I've talked about these movies a few times. I've recommended them a few times, but I never talk about the ones that really disturbed me. Some are really funny, some are good, like genuinely good short horror. Some are bad, and some are really disturbing. So I wanted to tell you the 2 that stood out to me that I can't get the images out of my head, and I wish I could. I mean, one of them was really well done, but the other one I wish I'd never seen it. So this is from the collection of the first ABCs of Death. There is a second one, but we're gonna talk about the first one. L. I'm not gonna describe it. I'm not gonna get into it. I'm not gonna tell you what it stands for. You can look at the Wikipedia page if you want to see a short description of what it's about. That will tell you right there why I don't like it. I actually hate that one. As much as it's, you know, I'm sure loved by some people, I hate it. I hate it. It is just not my cup of tea at all, and I don't get it, and I don't like it. And I know I'm normally not this negative on this channel and say that I actually hate something, but that one, I just wish didn't exist. So also, I think you can watch these somewhere online. You can look at the specific letters, so if you want to watch them. And then the other one is X, which is disturbing for so many different reasons, like definitely not on the same category at all. It's a very sad, tragic one, and I would say trigger warning for that one because it is very intense and a sad story, and I loved how it was told, but it is so upsetting to look at and so disturbing to watch. Again, you can find it on the Wikipedia page if you want to read a description, but I think the visuals on X are what really makes it disturbing. You can read the description of L and understand it, why I don't like it. X, I think you have to actually see if you are curious. Okay, the next one we're gonna talk about is OLDBOY, which came out in 2003. This is a Korean thriller that follows a man who is abducted and held captive and isolated for 15 years. He is finally released and never learns who his captor is or their motives, and he goes on the search for vengeance and falls in love. So this is another very famous movie. It's known for its big twists in it and, you know, the disturbing natures of it. And it's also known for its famous one-take fight scene, which is so iconic, and this movie is actually so amazing, and the only exception on this list because I have seen this movie twice. And again, I can't tell you why this movie stuck with me or why it's disturbing to me because that would spoil it because it's the big twist in it, and I can't tell you that. But each character is just so sad, and it just gets worse and worse as you watch it. It's another one of those depressing, nihilistic kind of movies that is just so negative, but there's something about it that is, I don't know. It's a great movie, and I highly recommend it. Again, one of those that I would say we all should see at least once in our life because it is such an iconic movie. Of course, if you've seen it, you know why this one's disturbing and why it stuck with me for so long. It is one that I can watch again. Obviously, I did watch it a second time. It's not so bad where it's so overwhelming, but it's a lot, and it's a heavy movie, obviously, because it's on this list. So the last movie I'm gonna mention in this video, can you guess what it is? It's a Serbian film. Yeah, this is probably the #1 most disturbing movie I have ever seen, and I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna talk about it at all because I can't. I have decided a personal policy of mine is I will never speak about this movie because I hate it. I hate it a lot. Again, some people enjoy this movie, these types of movies. No, I can't do it. I don't want to see that. Nope. I can't even talk about it. I can never talk about that movie again. I did a react video to it with my boyfriend. I'll link it, I guess. Don't recommend watching it, it's old. But I think a Serbian film is a great example of an exploitation movie and like why I don't seek them out, because they're just too much for me. I can't handle them, and I'm okay with that. That's not what I look for in the horror genre, to be so disturbed like that. I don't like that. I don't like that kind of disturbing nature at all, and I don't need that in my life. It's just, nope, no thank you. So, but you let me know what you think about a Serbian film and all these movies. Please tell me your most disturbing movies you've ever seen. I probably won't watch them. If you say that they're very disturbing, I probably won't. Sorry. There are some that are on my list, like Antichrist. I do want to watch because I love Lars von Trier. That's probably butchered too, but sorry. Because I love Melancholia so much, and that movie means so much to me now that I want to see his other work. I'm a little scared to watch that one, not gonna lie. But if you have any other recommendations that are disturbing but not so disturbing like these movies on this list, please leave it down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you soon.